just got done watching Totally Killer. This brand new movie comes out to Prime Video this week, and if you've seen the trailer for this, it kind of just hyped up this tone of Back to the Future meets a little bit of Scream and Happy Death Day, and well, the entire trailer, the entire premise does live up to exactly that. It is Back to the Future as a fun, relentless, charming horror comedy, and that for me is exactly what I needed to kick off my spooky season. And I think if you're a fan of horror comedies, and specifically Scream and Happy Death Day, you are going to have an utter blast with this movie specifically, because in some way, shape, and form, it does feel like a spiritual sequel to Happy Death Day 2, which for me, I was very disappointed to see never got its actual true potential with a third film to finish off that trilogy. And now we have this, and we kind of have this nice little subgenre of like freaky, the Happy Death Day films, like I mentioned, and Totally Killer is totally awesome and radical and all sorts of things that you could say from that. But I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts. Are you excited for this movie? Did you already watch it after watching this review? Let me know down below, as well as hit that like and subscribe button for all sorts of your favorite movie content. I love talking movies and TV over here on a daily basis, and if you're a geek just like me, you are quite in the right place. For some reason you don't know what Totally Killer is and you just heard me spew out all that nonsense, it's about when the infamous Sweet 16 killer returns 35 years after his first murder spree to claim another victim. 17-year-old Jamie accidentally travels back in time to 1987, determined to stop the killer before he starts. Now, this is directed, I'm going to mispronounce this and I so apologize, Nachaka Khan. Again, I might be mispronouncing that, I'm so sorry. He directed Always Be My Maybe, which was such an excellent rom-com on Netflix. If you didn't watch that, you absolutely should. It has a great cameo in there. Now, I was pretty excited for this. Just from that initial concept, and it absolutely executed in every way, every single thing I wanted it to be. And starting with that, when it comes down to a horror comedy, you want humor really much knitted throughout it all. And while some of the humor can be a little bit cringy because of the era that it's trying to go for and very much play off of, what I actually really liked was the genuine humor of it all and playing on the time travel aspect, mentioning things like Back to the Future, being on the nose with that, but even mentioning like something so small as like DNA and like what the police could do at this point in time in this time frame era and where this girl is coming from. There's a lot of references to that. Is like, oh, you know, in this era we would say this, but now coming back into where we're at in 2023, that's not something we would say. I think having those fun nuances will make it for a timely film for us as a different generation to watch this and be like, this is funny, or at the same time my parents could watch this and have fun relating back to this era as well. And I really dug what they were able to do with that. On top of that, with that great humor, it's the genuine charm that you get from this film, whether it's from the characters, whether it's from just in general the overall tone of the movie. It is very much more of a comedy than a horror film. Very much it's amazing tribute to all sorts of films like I had mentioned earlier. And when you have so many different genres like that, like Back to the Future, like Scream, like Happy Death Day, where it's going to play on all those different modes, it's nice to see a film that can continue in that same era, because so many horror films nowadays are either so dire, so dark and dreary, and I'm all for those. I'm all for the A24 elevated horror movies, but when it comes down to stuff like this, I like these original ideas that can play off other genres and bring in and infuse that same fun aspect. Because very much so, Kieran Shipka kind of feels like a modern day Marty McFly, and I don't know if that was something that they were trying to go for, but it put a genuine smile on my face. I had laughter in my stomach. But when you do come to a horror comedy, you do want some of those horror aspects, and the horror aspects that do bleed into here are fun. And the reason that I like the Scream aspect in here is trying to guess who the killer is, where did this all relate to. And while I do feel that some of it is a bit obvious, I do like where it ended up going in the end of the day, and I like the whole nuance with the time travel and how it kind of makes sense, it kind of doesn't. But I think one of my things that I actually really loved that they played so well with the time travel trope was when she travels back, she sees her parents younger. She sees these other people who had been murdered in the past, like all these different things and how it kind of relates to different people in her now time, like with the film setting up and all these other characters that they know. I like seeing that. But I also like how there's this whole subplot that takes place in the modern day that now it kind of goes back and forth in a very fun manner that I don't feel like a lot of time travel movies play with. And this one really does, and it makes its own rules that kind of just make you smile at the way that it could bring it all about. And that was actually the one aspect I was a little bit worried about within the first 20 minutes of how they were going to play on the time travel trope, because then once it starts explaining and exploring, I actually thought like the killer was going to like they were going to off him really fast and then kind of go forward with that and keep having him travel back, and maybe he had somehow had a time machine in his possession. And it's nothing like that. It's just very unique, and I don't want to get into any more details without getting into the points of spoilers, but it was fun. And I think that's the best way to put it, is that this movie is just an awesome, fun time, and to not be cringy myself, totally awesome. Like, I just couldn't get enough of how big of a smile I had watching this entire thing, and how wild it can actually get. To kind of round out the rest of the cast, because I do think everyone else is fantastic in here, is like Olivia Holt I thought was great, Charlie Gillespie I thought was great, Roy, Leah, Ann Johnson I thought was an actual big standout, Steffi Salvo I thought was great, Kelsey Mauma, and honestly, every single person you can expect to be in here was just fantastic. And also, going back to the director's style, I really like how they ended up shooting the movie on just a production design, but also on a cinematography. There's some really unique, like, slasher sequences, and the way that they actually moved the camera around was quite fun and entertaining and kept your attention and wasn't generic or boring. The movie isn't perfect, and I like to still mention some issues and nitpicks that I had with the movie. Now, some of that is, as much as I appreciate what they did with the time travel trope, I think there were some small little missed opportunities. But my only big issue I have with the movie is that the movie is about an hour and 45 minutes, and it definitely felt like 2 hours, 2:10. And I think there is a perfect hour and a half movie right inside this slasher movie. I think it goes a little bit too long. I wish they would have gotten to the point a little bit better. And even towards the climax, I find it to be a little bit underwhelming, but I don't know if that was because the middle portion of the film takes a little bit too much time to build off certain things. But nonetheless, I still had fun. That's why I think Totally Killer will put the biggest smile on your face, just like it did for me. It gave me some genuine laughs, but also delivered on the premise of Back to the Future meets Happy Death Day, and sprinkle in a little bit of Scream there. If you like either of those, you'll probably dig this movie, and specifically the charm of it all. So with all that said, I'm gonna give Totally Killer a B. Thank you so much again, guys, for watching this. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below your guys' thoughts, and of course, until next time, stay classy.